Don't like tasting it.
That's okay.
Yeah. Good morning. Happy Monday. It's Ashley Corville with the Complete Mortgage team. Mondays are my favorite day, just in general. Probably because I take my kids to daycare Monday morning and I feel like a brand new woman. I'm a little bit free, right? We love our children and I love to come to the office. And then we do Monday Lives and we talk about all things real estate, which I love. So we have Rachel Guidry.
Hi.
Welcome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So we've been working together for many, many years. And we've had some great transactions and some harder transactions. And we've had a couple this year that started with the two of us and they've gone for sale by owner.
Correct.
You've had a lot of that this year.
It has been a lot of that this year, which I find very strange. For sale by owners, just someone that wants to go for sale by owner that will not accept working with an agent, like
Yeah.
a buyer going with it. That's just strange. It's never happened before.
Yeah, and I think this year, well, I say this year, right? But 2020 is really what we're talking about, right?
Correct, yeah.
2020 was such a crazy year. We talked a lot about that. If you pay attention to my little show, we talk a lot about inventory and what that's done to our market. And it's the inventory is low, which means buyers don't have a lot to choose from. And sellers, they're getting top dollar for their house, right?
Right.
And so when you're getting top dollar and they want to make as much money, I think that's why sellers feel like they don't want to enlist an agent and they don't want to allow an agent to come and represent the buyer.
Right. They think because inventory is so low, they're going to get top dollar because there's nothing for buyers to look at and
Right.
there's just maybe 5 houses in that price range. Well, for sure you're going to get asking price for your home.
Right.
Not really realizing how we come up with that price.
And sometimes, and we've seen this, and I don't really know what the statistics are because I don't pay attention all that to the real estate market since I do the mortgage side. But most of the time when it's for sale by owner, sellers are leaving money on the table. And that either is because they've listed it too low or they've listed it too high. And then all kinds of things start to unravel at that point.
Right.
Because if it's listed too high, then it sits for a little minute and then you're paying extra mortgage payments, extra insurance, extra maintenance of your home. So, for sale by owners on the seller side, it comes with a whole handful of things that they're maybe not really thinking about.
It's true. They list it pretty high because they want the wiggle room.
Right.
When that wiggle room, you could be paying a professional to market it correctly and all of these things. And then you look and about 4 weeks after they listed it, now they're dropping it $5
Right.
grand. And then each week it's dropping $5 grand until they're giving their house away.
Right. Just trying to move it
Just
because
trying to move
now
it.
it's not in front of the same people or the right people.
It's not in front of the right people.
Yeah, and so for a seller, we want to talk a little bit about that. For a seller, we've talked a lot about what an agent can do for you as far as, we want to sell it quickly for the most money. That's the goal. But buyers, I obviously work with the buyer side because I do the mortgage loans. It causes me a great deal of concern when I have a buyer, particularly a first-time home buyer who's never done this process before, working on a for sale by owner without being represented. That's because things can get sticky in the process, and then there's no true professional to help keep the seller and the buyer on the right path, in the right lanes, all of that. So I think the first thing we want to talk about is when you're a buyer and you're working with an agent, we talk about the village, the team. That's why my company is called the Complete Mortgage Team, right? Because we assembled a line of people around you, which includes great agents who have their team. So who really do, what types of industries are you leaning on to gather around your buyers?
Well, even though I'm not part of a traditional real estate
Right.
team, I'm an independent agent, but I have a team of people working for my buyers. We have to have financing, which is
Right.
the lender side of it. That's going to explain all the loan programs and what they might qualify for. You're going to have your home inspection because the seller doesn't always know they have to disclose certain things.
Right.
And that home inspection is going to tell you. Right. If there's something wrong with the house, maybe you don't want to deal with a roof that's caving in, if the seller to know about.
Right. Or problems that are just like coming, because they look at a lot of like maintenance
They
issues.
look at maintenance issues and as well as major issues.
Yeah, major issues, and then maintenance like wear and tear and whatnot that can quickly become your problem.
Right, that you might not be able to see.
Yeah, like the AC's going out. Like that's my great example, because I've seen it a couple of times. They buy a house and then like they buy it now, it's end of January, and then they go to use their AC in 4 months or maybe 4 weeks, depending on what kind of year we're gonna have. They go to use the AC and then it doesn't cool properly, and now all of a sudden it's like something is wrong with it, and they want to go back to the seller, and it's too late. You've already bought the house, so that's an issue. So like inspection's really easy, and I see a lot for sale by owners. They want to waive right past that inspection.
Yeah.
We're gonna have an inspector on in a couple of weeks as to what they do and what they're looking at, so you can see more details. But that's like a primary thing that like gets skipped over in for sale by owners.
Well, that and a lot of first-time home buyers don't understand. In Louisiana, you're buying the house as is.
Mhm.
Once you sign the paper and you get your keys, it's your house now.
Day of closing, you sign the mortgage, loaning the money, the cash deal, making the home legally yours, and it's as is. You get the keys that day, and that's the end of it.
There's no landlord, there's nobody to call, you don't have a grace period. It's your house that
Yeah.
day. So along with the home inspection, we also appraisers, which
Right, we help
comes
with.
from your side, and you help with that because the bank's not loaning more money than the house is worth.
Right.
Which goes back to pricing, and a lot of for sale by owners don't know how we come up with that price.
So let's pause there. We see often that if a sale of a home or the contract goes under for what it's not worth, so you're under contract to pay $10,000 more than it's worth, the appraisal comes in, the lender says, we're only gonna lend up to the appraised value, and then you as a buyer have to go back to the seller that's totally emotionally involved in the sale of their house to negotiate a lower price. And so when you don't have agents involved to kind of take out some of that emotion, so you can have the two agents who represent the buyer and the seller, they work out those details, while everybody else, the buyer and the seller, can be freaking out on the outside.
Exactly.
And it makes it easier to negotiate between two professionals instead of two parties that are emotionally invested in this.
Well, it's our job to put out the fire.
Yeah.
I don't care, that your kids took their first steps in that house. I do. So I can go and talk to the other agent, nobody's,
Right.
and I don't want my buyer to feel like, oh, we really fell in love with this house, and you don't have 10 grand plus your down payment, plus your closing costs to put down on this house.
Right. And it's really not smart to buy a
not smart.
house that to
You're
pay more
upside
money
down.
than it appraises for. It does happen, but it's almost always not a good financial decision. It does happen sometimes. There are some circumstances, but on the everyday person, it's not a good idea to buy a house you're underwater in day one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not.
So I find that when you are in those positions, and it does, when a buyer has invested money in maybe a deposit to put down on the house, the inspection, if they've done that, and the appraisal, they're $1,500 or $2,000 into the house at that point. And if it doesn't appraise, you've invested this money, you feel all the way in. So sometimes you don't get the best deal anymore. You get sort of taken advantage of as far as you maybe didn't have $2,000 to throw away. And then what do?
Well, if you have an agent, you have a contract, and you get your money back.
You can get your money back or allow those people to renegotiate the price or the terms. It kind of like goes back into that so people can get what they want. All parties are protected and whatnot.
You have somebody fighting for you on both sides.
Yeah.
An agent is there to take care of you and make sure you're legally protected and you're not feeling robbed, I guess, of your money and your time and your emotions.
Yeah, and that really goes for both sides. I mean, I know we're talking a lot about buyers, but sellers, depending on their situation, may feel the same way that they got taken advantage of or that they didn't get everything that they expected and vice versa, right? So that's not a fun feeling to walk into a real estate transaction.
It's really not, and you don't want to put a bad taste in someone's mouth.
Right.
About the whole experience. It should be exciting. It should be fun. You're moving because you got a new job or you're getting a bigger house or
Right.
whatever the reason, and you're buying because you need these things. So everyone I like people to smile at the closing table.
Yeah, absolutely. And have, like I said, a good experience through this. Buying a house in 2021 is a little more challenging than it was a handful of years ago. Selling a house is a little more challenging. Even with the low inventory and sellers getting top dollar, like there's always things that go with it. So it really is best to have agents involved to take out some of those emotions, handle business on your behalf, and whatnot. So great advice. Thanks for coming on today.
Absolutely, I appreciate it.
Absolutely. If you guys want to reach out to Rachel, she can find her on Facebook, Rachel Guidry, or reach out to the Complete Mortgage team. We're happy to connect you guys and get you guys in a house this year. Thanks so much.